Welcome back to the Positive Alteration School podcast. Now, this is where we have conversations that spark transformation and in turn, transformation that shapes destinies. That's why I'm glad to have you here today. Today's episode is special. And when I say special, I mean literally it is special. I had to record this very episode from my car because there was no way I was going to miss out on this. I got stuck somewhere and needed to have this conversation with our guest. I had to park somewhere, as you would see later on, and we had to have this conversation. That's how powerful, that's how profound, that's how timely this conversation needed to be. There's a lot of things I'm going to cover today speaking with our guests, so just stay with me because my guest today is the phenomenal Owolola Thompson Duke. She is a globally experienced human resource leader. She's a business strategist, an executive coach, and one of the most influential voices that is shaping people's strategy today. I hope you're beginning to get why I had to stop by, stay in my car, and to have this conversation so that you'll all benefit from this. She has over 2 decades of experience impacting multinational organizations, getting involved in global developmental agencies, government institutions, and academic communities. Owolola stands at the intersection of brilliance and purpose. You would hear a lot from her childhood, the disappointments, the things that pushed her back, and you'll all benefit from that, I'm sure. As Vice President of Human Capital at PBR Life Sciences, she is redefining what it means to build high-performing, people-centered organizations. As a respected lecturer, a leadership coach, and a transformational strategist, she is equipping the next generation of leaders with the tools to evolve, to adapt, and to lead with honor. In today's conversation, we will dive really deep. And when I mean deep, really deep, we will explore the evolution behind her name and her identity, her leadership philosophy, her journey through multiple continents and industries, and the powerful mindset shifts that shaped her into the transformational leader that she is today. Now, you really want to hear from Owolola, so stay tuned as I unpack this nugget, the nuggets that we'll all benefit from. We will go deep down, unpack our experiences in the global workplace, the health sector, the NHS, academia, UNICEF projects, and her corporate leadership journey. We would also talk about some of the principles that drive high performance cultures in different places that we work, and also what will make leaders to be a lot emotionally stable, the things that form barriers leaders need to deal with, and what the future of HR is like. Now, this is not just another leadership conversation. I would say it is a masterclass in growth, reinvention, and the power of honor-driven leadership. So stay with me as I welcome Owolola Thompson Duke.
So, welcome to the show, Lola.
Thank you so much for having me, Stallone. I am so blessed to be here, to be honest. I love the name Positive Alterations because I believe that everyone's life has a trajectory, and the only way for you to actually put meaning into that trajectory is to make sure that you think positively. And I will tell you more about that when you do start asking the questions. But for me, the word positive, it doesn't even capture enough the nuggets that are found in the benefits that the word provides. So yes, thank you for having me here. I'm so grateful to be here.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I think you share the personal story behind the pronunciation shift of your name from, is it Owolola to Owolola? Now, I'm curious. You will give us the correct pronunciation, and then I know that one symbolizes money, the other symbolizes honor. So, how did this evolution reflect in your journey, and what has changed in terms of your career and leadership? First, why the change?
Okay, thank you very much. Owolola means money is wealth. a very unprecedented meaning for a name. The way my name was given was also very auspicious, because my name was not given to me by my father or my mother. I had this very wealthy uncle whose name was Owokunle, which means the house is full of money. And everyone would say, because the name really, a name is very important, because the more you call something, the person becomes that name. And so even if they didn't have it in them, if you call them beautiful, beautiful, they will begin to become beautiful. And and we find this in the scriptures. And I know our audience, some of them might not be believers, so they might not understand it. But the truth is, I know there was an experiment where two flower pots were put together. One was being spoken words of love, and the other was spoken words of hatred. And the other one died. They were given under the same conditions, but the one started to shrivel. So that names are very important. My uncle called Owokunle was extremely wealthy, and everybody used to invite him to their children's naming ceremonies and say, "Oh yeah, name our child." And he would not. But for my naming ceremony, I'm not even sure he was invited, or maybe he was invited at he came in very late. They had given me another name, which was Abisola, which is the name my father gave me. And he said, "No, that name is not going to stand, because I have come to give this one my name."
Okay.
And he said, Owolola. And the whole party
Community took
burst
it up.
into laughter. Like, who names the child? I don't even know any other person. I've gone all to different continents. I've schooled in different places. I've worked with different. I've never met another Owolola, And so he named me Owolola. And somehow I'm a very entrepreneurial person. My thinking is so entrepreneurial that you can't. If I tell you how many business ideas have come up just looking at you sitting in that car right now, you'll be shocked. I have journals and journals of business ideas, because that's just comes to me naturally. At any time in my life, my friends will tell you I'm probably the first person that I sold to them from when we were children. Started doing business from when I was like 7. So I can tell you that that's followed me. And like you said, my career has spanned like 2 years, and between these 2 years, a lot have happened. And I've realized that the most important thing, I used to think that the most important thing on earth was money. But you see, Maslow's theory of needs, he so explains it. You don't get to understand some things until you have lived it, and that that there's something that is more than money, which is honor. And for me, any fool, I'm sorry to use that word, but any fool can make money. But it takes a lot to be able to create honor, to be able to get honor. That's the true wealth. A lot of dishonorable people have money, but that's not wealth. True wealth for me would be honor. And that's why when I was promoted to the position of vice president, human capital, I felt I didn't want my legacy to just be money. I want my legacy to be that leadership, that honor that comes with being a leader.
So you change to what's the correct pronunciation? What's the new pronunciation?
Owo.
Okay, Owolola.
So the same spelling. Owo is what my uncle gave me. Owo is what I believe God and the experiences of my life have given me.
Owolola. All right. I'll try as much as possible to keep that going throughout this conversation. Owolola. And it would just be safe to just say Lola. Leave the story.
So I tell my friends also, or people I meet, I say, don't waste your energy. I know my name. You don't need to be able to pronounce it. Just call me Lola, because the whole point of a name is communication. Ease is what I want to give you. So call me Lola.
I will come to communication later. Yes. Now, but I'm intrigued by your story. And I want to ask you, what are some pivotal childhood, early career experiences, early career experiences that shaped the leader we see today, Owolola?
Thank you so much. I will say that my life has not been the regular one. I set out to be a medical doctor because everybody wanted me to be a medical doctor. My entire family, my school, I was health prefect. And, everybody thought I was going to be a medical doctor until the day I asked myself, do you really want to be a medical doctor? This happened so I went for junior engineers, technicians, and scientists. I went to represent the whole of the North, and I came second in the country in Akwa Ibom State. and I'd fabricated an incubator, because
Okay.
my medicine was going to be about children pediatrics or gynecology, and I'd fabricated an incubator from local materials. I was in the papers. I was just 16 at the time. And, at that point, they brought different people from different countries to look at our projects. And after that, I remember someone calling me, and I don't know who he is, but he called me and he said, is a Nigerian elderly man. And he said, "Yeah, woman, what are you doing with all these science things? You belong in a man's kitchen. You are too beautiful for this." Yes, I remember that. I cried all through the night. And when they gave me the trophy and the gifts, there were two of us that came from my school. I just gave it to Ada. Adama, by the way, the girl that came with me, she's a pediatric consultant in America now. I gave it to her. I said, "I don't want any of this. My life is a waste." And I went back to school. I didn't attend any of my classes. I was top up till now. My physics teacher still calls me my chemistry. They loved me, so I stopped attending my classes. I just said, there's no point. Let me go and study law so that I can fight all these men, and I started to study my career counseling teacher, summoned me and all that. I didn't even go. I stopped attending classes from that point.
Because of that
Conversation, that conversation. And, I'd also heard it many times at home, head or tail, the woman is a loser, those kind of words, and, how people cherished the male child to the female. So that's really formed my early years of how I even chose a career in the first place. I was no longer interested. Somehow I did JAMB and SSE. I still passed because, it's residual knowledge is not really, and I went to a university and studied. I studied. My parents didn't. They gave me law. My parents said no, so I ended up studying psychology, political science, and public admin. And with that, I already grew up thinking that I hated the world from that moment. Because before that moment, I loved everything. I was tops in my class. I was always having all the prizes and all that, and I was happy. But that moment for me made me feel like, what's the point? But a turning point again was when I would now bury myself in books, because in books you can travel, you can imagine. My imagination was where I was living. I was not socializing with people anymore. And in reading that book in the garage, my mom had crates and crates of books. She was a building technology engineer, by the way. And I would read engineering books, just reading to get, as an escape.
Get away from the
And
world.
sorry?
I mean, reading to get away from the world.
Yes,
Just
yes,
eat
yes,
or
yes.
space.
And so I saw this book, Norman Vincent Peale.
Okay.
That was my introduction to neuroplasticity. How do they say? Plasticity. Yeah. Then that wasn't the word, but the word was you could construct your world with positive thinking. At least that's what I got from that. I
Okay.
said, you mean I can live in a different world where I can build my own world where men will not have to, throw me in the kitchen and lock the keys, can actually
Yeah.
build my world. And that gave me another impetus. And I started to, try to say, okay, what do I want from this world? What do I want to do? And then it helped me to say, okay, I like people. How about human resource management? And at least with that, first of all, I like business. So what's the most difficult part of business is understanding the humans, your human capital. And that took me on the trajectory of human resource management and hence the moving to the UK, studying in University of Leicester, doing the masters, doing the MBA, all along understanding human capital.
Wow. That's a journey. But I know that. I'm so sorry. I mean, that statement, that conversation took you a few steps backwards and almost locked you in, as it were. But thank God you're here today. And there are so many people in the world where what people say to them really affects them negatively. I still do that when I have the opportunity to talk to people, to say, if what people say to you has power, have you considered what you say to yourself? Because it's energy in some form. Somebody tells you something. Can you cancel it? Can you talk yourself through or can you seek positive energies somewhere? Some people just go, for you now, a book changed your life. I mean, that book just opened, it was as it were a faucet, saw you through a different door. Some people, they stay stuck. And I want to ask you this. Has this played back at any point in time? First of all, a man told you your place is in the kitchen. What is all this nonsense you are designing? Even was brilliant and you came second. So bad that you gave the award to someone else. They want to attend classes. That was deep. Today we're talking about it in hindsight. Today we're looking at it in hindsight. My question is, in the course of your journey, has it come up at any point in time? Did it change? Did it affect your view of the opposite sex? I mean, the male gender? Did it affect you? To what extent did it affect your view of the world, the workplace, how you deal with people?
It definitely did. It definitely did. First of, I didn't see any really good, great male role models growing up. So that was like an icing to the cake. So I told myself, I became a real man hater. Any boy that was in my class, my target was I was going to do better than them. I didn't date throughout university. I was just not into that. I just wanted to prove everybody wrong, and thank God for Norman Vincent Peale and the power of positive thinking told me that I could decide what I said, regardless of what anybody else said about me. And what I said is what is the power. And it gave me power. Another thing that really helped me was I said, you know what? Okay, I realized that there was my power, even though I could create my own world, there were other powers, and I needed the superior power, the most supreme of them all. I was a Muslim girl, and as you know me, I don't do anything in small measures. I was studying my Quran, seeking God, saying, God, I need to know you. I need powers to be able to achieve this. At 18, one of the times when I was studying my Quran and praying, I got redirected. I'm not going to go into that story, but I got redirected and I came to know Christ. For me, I don't know how people are Christians and they don't read the Bible. It was like gold. Finally, solutions. Finally, things that I'd been looking for. And so that really helped me as well. I got one, I would say, want something. I looked at the UN house. I really liked the UN building in Bauchi then growing up. And I said, I'll work here someday. And I did work there. I worked in the UN for 10 years. And while I was in the UN, I didn't even want to get married because it took a lot, looking at my thinking about men. But then I met a fantastic boss. I will always talk about him. He's Dr. James Mugaju. He's from Rwanda. I had bosses from different countries, but that's one man I will say changed the trajectory of my life. So because of all the self-help books I'd read, I was very diligent. I could work 24 hours, even sleep in the office without breaking, because once I have a goal, I'm targeting it, But I still had because I've always been introverted. Now I understand I'm an ambivert because I've built myself over the years in terms of I don't like the limelight. I've never liked the limelight. But I remember I would do all this work for my behind the scenes, and then we'll be at the meetings and I would just
Go quiet.
And so my boss, God bless him, is a wonderful guy. He's head of UN in, I think now he moved from Ukraine. He's in Burkina Faso now. Wonderful guy. He knows because I give him his flowers. Dr. James Mugaju called me and said, Lola, you are such a brilliant mind. Why are you always muted at the meetings?
Okay.
I said, but all the people can talk. He said, nobody claps in the dark. I'll never forget that. Nobody claps in the dark.
Yeah.
If you go behind and do all the work, when it's time for you to shine, you keep quiet. Nobody's going to hand it to you. You have to take it. He even gave me a book about female CEOs. Then I was just an assistant. I was maybe in my 20s. I didn't even see myself as anything but, just working in making sure solutions and all that and organizing. So I began to read the books. He would give me books on management. He would give me books on time management, different things. And public speaking and communicating and being affirmative, and that really built me. It helped me to always be present at meetings, make sure that I am memorable. he made, you have, people can't forget you. You're a black woman. You are more likely to be forgotten. It's easy for you to be put
you're
on the
black
back
and you're
burner. You have to make sure that you are memorable. Initially, I thought, why is this man like this? Why is he this? He would drag me into those meetings and say, God, I don't want to be seen. But then I would make a statement and people will start to clap.
okay.
And then, the courage started to come one step at a time. He would call me, tell me things that nobody has ever told me, building me up. In fact, when he asked me, so what are you doing about marriage? Then, because I didn't want to get married, so I said, I don't want to get married. I had one daughter, then outside wedlock. That's a whole different story. And he said, you want one child? I said, yes, I'm fine. He said, no, you cannot be fine. You cannot be fine. I said, why? He said, because you have a global relevance. And this is a war of numbers. We have to produce more people like you. The minimum I'm giving you is at least 3. That's what he said to me. I was looking at this man like, is this man mental? Me, that I was like, how am I going to get married? How am I going to do that? And he's a man of the faith as well. And he made me understand. It's not about you, So sometimes we think it's all about ourselves. I had everything I needed and I was just fine being in the UN with my own daughter. I was fine. But he took me to places in my mind that I'd never been. And he convinced me to get married.
All right. Beautiful. That must have been a very serious work for him.
Yes, it was. It was. And he's a kind of leader that does not just show you the way, he goes the way. He's been married now for about 30-something years. He has 5 children. And of his 5 children, they are all doing extremely well.
30 something years. So that's like me, married for 35 years now.
You? How old are you?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay. All right. So, Lola, you moved on to HR. Now your role is one of VP Human Capital at PBR Life Science.
Yeah.
My question at this point now, let's move a little bit into your work, is what does it take to build? You've been there, you've seen these things, you're still there. What does it take to build a people strategy that supports innovation, especially in a world that's AI driven, data driven, and in some organizations like yours, that is really a fast growing sector? What does it take to build a people strategy? We all talk about human resources, people this and people that, and then there's this war of AI and all of that. How can we mix all of that? How do you, as a human capital professional, from your point of view, what does it take to build that strategy that supports innovation?
Thank you very much. The primary base of that is understanding what exactly is innovation. I did an MBA in Paris where they unboxed what innovation was for you to understand what it is in the first place. One key person that stood out to me in understanding innovation is another man of faith, a professor in Harvard.
Okay.
Christian Christensen. Fantastic man. And if you want to know anything about innovation, you can look at his works. He talked about disruption.
Okay.
Disruption that we know today, it wasn't even a buzzword when he started to talk about disruption. Disruption is what caused Nokia to go off the market. Because disruption is you looking at, if you're already doing well, it's not about you not doing well. For you that are not doing well, you start from the point of fixing your problems.
Yes.
But disruption is where you're already doing well, but you go now and start to look, how can I do better? Because disruption comes when an Uber thinks about a software. They don't have a single car, yet they disrupt the whole business of the black cab in the United Kingdom. And Airbnb do not have any mortar and pestle, any brick and mortar. And they disrupted Hilton, they disrupted Marriott, they disrupted all the major chains in hospitality just by thinking outside the box. So disruption is the basic for innovation. Understanding that what I think is good now, will it be good in 10 years?
Okay.
If it is not going to be good in 10 years, what can I do to disrupt myself before I am disrupted?
Okay.
because
Now,
people will disrupt you.
yes. Now, how do we? What are the strategies in your experience you think people leaders can apply? More often than not, the challenge we have is we experience friction. There is too much stress in moving from one point to another. We're all in the same territory, but we have different maps, and then the struggle is there. Then you have those in the organization who are jaded. This is how we do things. But now you are saying that if you stay the way you're doing things, someone else is going to disrupt you, and you tie that to innovation. My question is, how do we foster or how do we create an environment that encourages people, in fact, asks people to be innovative instead of putting the brakes? How do we do that? I mean,
Thank you very much. The reason why I left the UN and started working with startups, this is the second startup I'm working with. I used to work with Pagatech. Pagatech is going to be 17 years, or was 17 years a few days ago, which is, a miracle to me, knowing that, how they started. And then PBR Life Sciences. The thing is, with the HR department, the human capital is not a side department. It's not a department for administration. And I say this to business leaders because I do coach some business executives, you cannot afford to have a single HR team member. You get that HR generalist, and that's the person that is your HR. Because in your mind, what's human resource management, absence management, letters of another, and the whole works of employee relations. That's not HR. If any organization is going to win, they're going to be able to position their team as their competitive advantage. And the best way to do this is to have a multi-layer leveled team that is managing human capital. Let me unbox that. You cannot have just one person that is working with this how we do things, operations, because you can always automate things, all those routine things, you can automate them. I developed an app. I have an app that I developed to manage performance management. We used to need 2 developers and 6 weeks to do that. Does that in 30 minutes now. I can devise any app I want to do. I want to create in terms of human resource management for routine actions. You need someone that's working on the routines, and you definitely need a strategist.
okay.
A strategist or strategists will not work on the job. They will not work in the job. They will work on the job. When you have an HR department that is concentrating on working in the job, the letters have come in. Oh, we need to do onboarding. Oh, they're doing that. That cyclical routine work, you will definitely be disrupted by an external force.
Right.
But when you have some people working in the job to keep the routine going, and you automate as much as you can, then you have someone working on the job who can see the lenses, look at the team from the lenses of innovation, has that enough white space to think and say, okay, what's going on with AI? Why am I on the cutting edge of AI? Because I can step back and look. Okay, I'm attending AI generator labs. I'm attending conferences that tell me what is the cutting edge of AI right now. So I'm able to see beyond the person collecting the documents, moving, I'm able to see beyond that.
Yeah.
And you can't have that with one generalist managing your HR operations, which is what people try to cut costs. And then even those that are really massive get one HRBP to manage the different units. That HRBP will be stuck in working because one person is going on leave, another person is exiting, another person is being in this, and one person is doing that madness.
Okay.
It will never work. You will have to perpetuate the routine so that it will be for ease. You will perpetuate what you have been doing.
In other words, what you're saying is it's like board game. If you're sitting on the board, you are playing a board game. The tendency of the fact is you have blind sides. Somebody who's standing outside and looking at the entire game sees some things. I mean, it's simple experiments have been done again and again. If you have HR people that are always working in the job, there is no question their blind side is outside the job. So you need another person who sees from outside and sees it. Another way to also explain this could be, from my understanding from what you're saying, is to see the the HR, I don't know, see the entire HR function as an internal consultant, sort of who sees, and it's multi-layered. That was your expression you used, multi-layered, that can see things from outside, especially from the eye of an innovator. It reminds me of a conversation I was in, especially around personality, because I do lots of behavioral analysis using this. And I was in a conversation where a friend of mine pointed out something. What they do in the organization, which is very fascinating, is that she had this experience where she had another person who was always against her. She was that person who brings all the ideas. She drops the idea on the table. But the other person was a more analytical person. And so he begins to attack the ideas. But in hindsight, what she learned was that that person was useful as much as she was useful. There are some people that are good at taking ideas and shredding them, analyzing them, making them finer, but they really can't bring those big ideas to the table. While there are some people that, my goodness, just give them a space and they can bring all the ideas in the world and put them on the table. They both play roles. But there's a third person that was missing from the conversation, what we learned. Because the third person would have been that person who balances both of them. That person was, yeah, you brought all the crazy ideas in the world and you put them on the table and you are attacking the ideas and shredding, and let's take out of 20 ideas, let's expunge 18 and stick to 2. But there has to be someone who is in the middle and balances the emotions that would flow. But they all play roles, okay? And I see that also in the HR role, especially when we talk about innovation. You need someone who can do all the crossing of T's and dotting of I's. And you need somebody who looks at it from a high level downward.
Is reflective.
Yes, that's really key. And that brings me down to managers and coaches. I know that you are a certified coach with the John Maxwell team, and you've got lots of experience even lecturing. Where do you see management and coaching meeting? Again, it takes me back to what I had a session recently with the team, and the idea that came out of the mastermind we were having was, how can managers go from just being managers to being coaches as managers? Where do you see, have you seen this struggle? Have you seen this gap? You see people they can manage material, they can manage stuff. They are fantastic at their jobs, but throw people to them to manage or to help to grow, it becomes a challenge.
I used to lecture at the University of London, and I used to lecture leadership and developing people. And I used to explain to them the difference between management, leadership, coaching, counseling, and what's the last one? Counseling, coaching, management, leadership. They're total, and mentoring. That's the last one. So they're so different, because being a manager is you're taking a set of rules, helping to articulate a direction and say, okay, this is the outcome we're expecting, and making sure that you direct resources towards achieving those goals. That's what a manager is, essentially. A leader is a totally different thing. But a coach also is totally different. Most managers can become mentors, because a mentor is relational. You're able to say, okay, I have been here. Let me take you down the path that I have been. So if you have been a good manager, you can mentor someone by observation, or you can make it more streamlined to be able to say, okay, per project, come and see what I'm doing so you can do it. Or else you can reflect on what the person has done and say, oh, this is how I did it this other time, and that's the outcome I got. That makes you a mentor. But for a coach is a more strategic role. A coach does not even need to have been in that line of business. You see the football coaches. Not all of them have played football before. There's just a method to coaching where you now use the strengths of that person. You optimize the strength of that person and the knowledge that the person already has to make them perform even better. So you see, a coach has to be trained as a coach. A mentor becomes a mentor from their own experience. So bringing a manager who has never been trained as a coach, telling them to go outside their job remit to become a coach is a tall order. It just won't work. A manager can be a mentor, but not all managers can become coaches.
can become coaches. So there are times when the manager is struggling to coach. Oh, he doesn't want to look bad. She doesn't want to look bad. So they try to do coaching and then they struggle. It's this dissonance. For me, I feel because of the work I do in behavioral communication analysis, anytime you struggle inside of you, it's friction. And that friction costs you more energy, costs the company time, and costs the company money, but we don't see it because skills gaps are very easy to spot. Behavioral gaps are hard to spot. Okay, you have to look deeper. What you've dropped now is really key. A mentor can use his experience, say, all right, come with me. But a coach needs to be trained, needs to understand how to optimize or even maximize the strength of the people they are coaching. That is really strong. How did this play out? Because I know that you said you were with the UN. It means you also did some social work that has to do with social impact. How did these, I'm trying to touch different facets of your life within the time that you have. How did these influence your emotions and the way your leadership pattern? Because I know that the profit making world is the commercial world. There's a line between the commercial world and the social world, where you do something for social impact. How is that playing out in your role as people development person, people capital lead, as a coach, and all that?
The thing is, and I say this, and this is why a number of people in the development world or the non-governmental world or the CSO world, civil society world, find it difficult to transit to the corporate world because of that basic understanding. And like I said to you, the base for everything, I will say, is also the knowledge that I first of all pursued to understand business, hence my MBA, as my MBA in entrepreneurship and innovation. The primary thing is bringing value. So for me, I looked at the corporate world and I looked at the development world and I looked at the intersection. Yes, this is for profit. This is not for profit. But what is the intersection of both worlds? Is value. And in fact, and I say this to the people that I coach in terms of business, your business should not be for profit. It sounds like it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Because you're not trying to make one sale. If I want to make one sale to you, then it should be for profit. I'm making one sale and I'm going to sell this house and I'm never coming back again. I'm never going to have anything to do with you. So I must make the most profits that I can make at that time, sell, hard market, hard brand, and then sell it to you. And that's it. But that's not how people make wealth. If you are going to make wealth, it should not be just for profit because you are thinking of how can I add the most value to this person to become a memorable value add.
Okay.
So people like Coca-Cola were not competing with the next sweet Coke. They were competing with water, because they want to appeal so much to you that it becomes seamless. The communication, the love, the relationship with you, the value add is so seamless that you look forward to it. And the not-for-profit is that you are creating demand from people such that they want to take the vaccines, you want to provide the welfare, people come to you when they're in need. That's what you want to be as a business owner. You want people to think about you. You want to be top of mind in their heads, such that people will say, okay, so you're at home, it's just Netflixing all day. That's a brand right there.
Okay.
Sitting in your head. Because they make it as easy as possible they don't say go and take a long line to pay for your subscription. If you can't pay for 11.9, pay for 4.99. Okay, can we go to 5.99? Because they want to be that friend. That is business, and that is what nonprofit is all about. To make them that social partner.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing you want your business to be.
Yeah. So how has that influenced the way you make decisions as an executive?
It's about always long term.
Okay.
So if you can't make decisions thinking, okay, right now, what's in it for me? You can't think about that. Regardless of how you will look right now, you're thinking down the line. You know that this is a long journey. Okay, I'm going to be strategic. Let me start by this, but I know where I'm going.
Yes. You know why
So
I'm
you
asking you
always
this
think
question?
long term and the
Okay.
whole picture. You think holistically. You can't take one bit, one chunk of the business and make a decision, because when you make a decision, every decision has a ripple effect.
Yeah. And the reason I'm drilling that a little bit, Lola, is I'm also thinking about emerging HR practitioners, people development practitioners, people who are coming into this space, or maybe they're in the mid-level, and sometimes you find your head in a box. I'm an HR business partner. I am a learning and development partner. I am an organizational development partner, and your head is there. I know that there are different levels. Sometimes you need to be in a functional space. But what I'm pushing through is to see if your story could also help people to think business and see the HR function, the people development function, and all of that as part of their entire value that they are bringing to the table. Because it just changes the way you see the world, the way you see your organization. And that's why I'm asking how these things relate to how you make decisions. So if somebody comes and that you have another vice president makes decision and Owolola makes our own decision, you feel there's a difference because of the thinking, you know?
Absolutely. And it's all about communicating. And I think it is Dave Ulrich, the HR guru, that says the
Yeah.
new HR is not the HR that is looking about operations. It's the HR that is thinking broadly about business and about value. So you're thinking, regardless of what is the situation right now, I want to be able to think, how is this impacting the business in the long run? Yes, we are positioning the people. I must focus on the people to make sure that they are competitive advantage. Also, am I looking at the impact of my focus on the business? Is always the big picture. So when people are thinking differently from you, is there are always two things involved. First, they do not understand your thinking. You have not been clear enough to influence their thinking. Secondly, they have a conviction that you don't understand.
Okay.
So you need to find help. That's why sometimes I say, help me understand your thinking. Because it's
Great.
either you're not understanding my thinking or I am not understanding your thinking. Because the moment we get to that intersection where both of us understand the thinking, because, and I'm saying all things being equal, no political undertones and all those extras. Usually, when people understand one another, then it is easier to move in the direction of progress.
Yeah.
The conflicts come when there's no understanding.
So in your words, ask the question or ask for help. Help me understand your thinking. Did you know that some people get upset when you ask them that question? I
I
don't
know.
understand what you're saying. Help me understand what you're saying. And they get upset because sometimes they think you are playing games. But like you said, take the politics aside. It's humility to say, I know you have a point. I believe we probably want the same thing. I just don't understand your line of
You're
reason.
thinking.
Make me understand it. It becomes some people get upset. And I feel sometimes that people get upset when it comes to clarifying communication. When you ask them that question, they get upset because they probably don't even understand what they want, you know.
Exactly.
So that's where grace, compassion comes into play to say, this person is trying to communicate something that they themselves don't even understand how to communicate, because it could be clear in your head that you just can't articulate your thoughts correctly, appropriately, or vividly. So while you're trying to explain, you yourself are getting confused. So it gets into all of that. But communication is key. You mentioned that you coach and you mentor people. How do you have a program? Do you have a way to help people that would love to learn from your experience and your expertise? And they are also journeying in their own way.
Yes, I do. And I've run it since 2018. It's called Mordecai Institute. We are in different countries. And what we do is we coach. We do one-on-one coaching in terms of leadership coaching. We do executive coaching. And we have little pockets of events like breakfast, cinema time, times when we just go and people get the opportunity for a mastermind and all that. And we run it now and then, because I've been also full time. Most times I've just done it as a give back to the community, but I'm going to make it stronger now because I see that there's a much more demand for it. And so I'm going to make that really stronger. Mordecai Institute, we're on Instagram, where we have we're on Facebook and a number of places on social media. You'd find Mordecai Institute. So yes, I do
Mordecai.
that coaching.
So
Yes.
Mordecai is spelled Mordecai.
DE. Yes. Then
Okay.
Institute, one word. Yes. And you know where that is from? It's from the scriptures. It's Esther, Mordecai being the one that trained Esther to be able to stand before the king, because she was from a totally different environment. And sometimes the distance between you and where you want to be is the knowledge gap. And so with that, we're able to actually coach you into success. I always tell the story of, because during COVID, I met this family who wanted me to coach their son. He had no job. He was just sofa surfing and, very talented boy, but he had chronic issues when it comes to procrastination. And it can be overwhelming, especially when the world was falling apart at that point. Long and short, they put him on my program, and in 5 years, yes, this is 5 years. No, it's because he got married in 2024. In 2024, he set up his own business, got married to a medical doctor. Now he has a son and a daughter. So I'm so proud of him. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That is beautiful.
Yes, total transformation. We pride ourselves in coaching 360 degrees leaders, because we want people not to just be good on one side. We want you to be an all-rounder, such that family life, spiritual, physical, mental, and your career is successful.
I love that story of Mordecai and Esther. There's something very fascinating about that story, and that's Esther didn't believe in what she had in her, and the intriguing part in that story was when Mordecai said, listen, you know what? If you don't do it, somebody else will do it. If you don't do it, someone else will be raised to do it. There's a reason you were put in this position, you were put in this place. And that goes on to also say that wherever we are in life, we're there for a reason. We may not find the reason, know the reason yet. Like you mentioned, where you are and where you're supposed to be, many times it's just knowledge gap. You might find someone. That's why it's important to seek someone. It could be a coach, it could be a mentor to help you with that knowledge, to bridge that knowledge gap. It brings to mind what Tony Robbins, I think it was Tony Robbins that said, when you read books, what you do is you compress time, because people put their knowledge over time into books, and you get that and you read. But when you go further and you get a mentor, you get a coach, you compress time further, okay? And that helps you to grow. As we round off, I want to ask you, you said Mordecai Institute is on Instagram. Is it on LinkedIn too?
No, I think as we spoke, I thought we should be on LinkedIn. I think we would go on LinkedIn as soon as possible, but we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and just shoot us an email, mordecaiinstitute@gmail.com.
And on LinkedIn, who do we find on LinkedIn?
Owolola.
So on LinkedIn, would find
Yes.
Owolola. And here's
Thompson
the thing.
Duke.
What do you're very busy. What do you do when you're not busy? You're not working, you're not coaching, you're not mentoring. What do you, I know you didn't see that one coming.
Someone asked me to tell them my fitness journey. And I said, I don't have a fitness journey. I have a fitness life.
Okay.
I've always done this. I used to run a lot, but I stopped running, I think, after my third child. And then every week, at least twice or thrice a week, I swim. I
Okay.
do some aqua circuits, do some weights in the pool, because I'm sure you can see I'm baby girl. I don't do things that make me sweat. Well, I am big on my fitness, but I just don't like to sweat, and but it's really helpful when you lift weights inside water. You're working all your muscles. You are working all your
Really?
muscles without the sweating. So I do that twice or thrice every week. That's the way I love to catch fun, and I love to read books. I love to read books. Like you said, indeed, it's compressing time, and it helps you to just go all over the world If you lock me in a room for 7 months, I'll probably be there reading books. But I love to travel. I love to cook. Incidentally, because there's still that scientist in my head. So anytime you see me, I want to mix tastes. I love to bake. I love to do all those experiments, and somehow they always turn out good. So I love it.
Good stuff. Lastly, if you were to have lunch with 3 people, dead or alive, who would you choose? Who would you think of? Who would you invite?
Strangely, the first person I would really, really like to have a meal with would be Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
I really think he saw things that we didn't see. He knew things that were not articulated into his books because his actions are evidence that he saw more than we did. And I would like to pick his brain on that. The second person that I would really like to have lunch with would be Oprah Winfrey. She is someone else that I see a lot of her and me because I see the trajectory of her life. And I know I first watched an Oprah Winfrey show in a very dire second. I was in a very strange place in my life, and I saw a Black woman on TV. This is America. Like, she was on TV and she was commanding the attention, and she carried the presence and the grace of a queen, and people respected her, Black, white, green, regardless of the race. There's some nuggets I need to get out of there,
Okay.
And then the third person that I'll probably want to have dinner with, although she's passed now, is Queen Elizabeth.
Okay.
Queen Elizabeth is an icon in my mind because the Bible says if a man is able to, if you find someone who is perfect in speech, they will always be successful. And I paraphrase. Queen Elizabeth never was in the scandals or in trouble because of the words that she spoke. Conduct was consistent for decades.
Okay.
Surely she had hormones working through her body, like I do as a woman. She had children herself. So she must have had the highs and lows. It was impossible to see.
Okay.
We used to think that they were a different species until we started seeing other royal family members, that they are also human like us.
Yeah.
But how she was able to do it, nobody ever caught her in person. You can't tell me. There are many conspiracy theories, but in conduct, in words, in deeds, and in character, she was consistent for decades. I want to learn something from her.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, viewers of the Positive Alteration School podcast, it's been a pleasure talking to this wonderful, fiery, emotionally energizing lady. She's my friend. It's been a pleasure, talking to you, going through your world and learning a lot. I don't think we have had this longer conversation deep into your world. And I'm hoping that we would have as a revisit and talk some more to get to know you. Please connect with her on LinkedIn and find Mordecai Institute if you want coaching, mentoring your kids, partner. You never can tell what you're going to find when you open yourself up so that others can pour into you what they have in store. Thank you so much and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.